In a land where winters could freeze the very soul, where the winds howled across the plains like whispers of forgotten prayers, there lived a man named Jacob Turner. Once a rancher of pride and purpose, Jacob had seen his world fall apart like dry leaves in an autumn storm. His wife, Martha, had passed 3 winters ago, leaving behind an echo of laughter that still haunted the empty halls of his farmhouse. Jacob had stopped believing in miracles. He worked the land, tended his few remaining cattle, and each night sat by the flickering fire staring at the rocking chair that still creaked as if she were there. His heart was heavy, his spirit tired. But fate has a way of finding those who've given up hope. As the first snow of December fell thick across the valley, Jacob hitched his horse to the wagon and set out for town. Supplies were running low, and the barn roof needed repair. The road was quiet that day, only the crunch of frozen earth beneath the wheels and the breath of the horse steaming in the cold air. Halfway through the pass near Miller's Creek, Jacob saw something strange, footprints. Tiny ones, half buried in snow, leading toward the woods. He reined in the horse, frowning. Out here, in this bitter cold, walking meant death. Who'd be out here, he muttered, his voice carried away by the wind. Curiosity, or perhaps that old spark of kindness his wife had once loved in him, made him follow the tracks. They led deeper into the trees, where the snow grew thicker and silence more profound. Then he saw it, a small figure crouched beside a fallen log, wrapped in a tattered shawl, her arms holding 3 small bundles close to her chest. The woman's face was pale, her lips trembling, and the children, triplets by the look of them, were thin as sticks, their cheeks hollow from hunger. Jacob's heart clenched. "Mom," he called softly, afraid to startle her. She looked up, eyes wide and fearful, as if she'd forgotten how to trust. "Please," she whispered, "don't hurt us." Jacob stepped closer, hands raised in peace. "I won't. You'll freeze out here. Come with me. My wagon's just up the trail." For a moment she didn't move. Then, as one of the babies let out a weak cry, she nodded faintly. Jacob wrapped his coat around her shoulders and lifted the children gently into his arms. They were so light it broke his heart. He carried them to the wagon and drove back toward his farm, the snow falling harder now, covering the tracks they left behind. By the time they reached the farmhouse, the storm had turned fierce. He rushed them inside, stoked the fire, and fetched blankets. The woman, her name, he soon learned, was Anna, kept whispering thanks even as her voice faded with exhaustion. "Don't speak," Jacob told her softly. "Just rest. You're safe now." For the next 2 days, the storm trapped them together. Jacob tended to the triplets, 3 tiny boys named Samuel, Isaac, and Eli, and cooked broth from what little he had left. The boys ate greedily, as though afraid the food would vanish. Anna watched him with tired but grateful eyes. "You saved us," she said one night when the storm began to ease. Jacob shook his head. "Anyone would have done the same." She smiled faintly. "No, not anyone. Most folks don't stop for strangers anymore." Jacob said nothing. He wasn't used to kindness, or conversation, these days. As days passed, warmth returned to the farmhouse. The laughter of the triplets echoed through the halls like music. They followed Jacob everywhere, tugging at his coat, asking questions in their tiny voices. And slowly, something began to change within him. He found himself smiling again. He started waking before dawn, not from loneliness, but to see them chase each other around the kitchen. The empty chair by the fire didn't hurt as much. Anna, though quiet, worked tirelessly. She mended the curtains, cleaned the old rooms, and even helped milk the cows. There was a quiet strength in her, something steady and unspoken. One evening, as they sat together by the fire, Jacob finally asked, "How'd you end up out there, in the snow?" Anna stared into the flames for a long moment before answering. "My husband died in the mines last spring. When the landlord found out I couldn't pay rent, he threw us out. I tried to find work, but no one would hire a woman with 3 mouths to feed. We were walking to my sister's place 2 counties over when the storm hit. I thought we'd never make it." Her voice broke, and Jacob felt something twist deep inside him. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. She nodded, tears shining in the firelight. "I just wanted to keep them alive." Jacob reached out, placing his hand gently over hers. "You did. You brought them this far. You're stronger than you think." That night, as the wind howled outside, Jacob sat awake for hours, staring at the fire. He realized he hadn't prayed since Martha died. But he did then, not for himself, but for Anna and her children. Weeks turned into months. The snow melted, giving way to spring. The land began to live again, and so did Jacob. Together, they planted a small garden. Anna taught the boys to feed the chickens, and Jacob built him a swing from an old oak branch. The farm, once silent and cold, was now alive with laughter. But change, as always, brings new storms. One afternoon, a rider appeared at the gate, a man in a black coat, his expression sharp and cold. Jacob met him at the porch. "You Jacob Turner?" the man asked. "I am. I'm looking for a woman named Anna Reed. Been reported missing from town since December." Jacob's heart thudded. "She's here," he said cautiously. "But she's no criminal." The man narrowed his eyes. "No one said she was. But the landlord she worked for filed a complaint, says she stole money when she left." Anna stepped out onto the porch, pale and trembling. "That's not true," she said. "He owed me wages for months. When I left, I only took what was mine." The man frowned. "You'll have to come with me, Mom. There'll be a hearing." Jacob stepped between them. "She's not going anywhere, not until there's proof." The officer's gaze hardened. "You interfering with county law?" Jacob met his stare. "I'm protecting a woman who's suffered enough." A tense silence hung between them. Then, after a long moment, the man sighed. "Fine, I'll be back with papers." He mounted his horse and rode off. Anna sank to her knees, tears spilling down her cheeks. "It'll never end," she whispered. Jacob knelt beside her. "It will, I promise." He kept that promise. The next morning, he rode into town and faced the landlord himself, a bitter man named Holman. Jacob stood tall in the middle of the saloon, every eye in the room watching. "You lied about Anna," he said. "You know she didn't steal a thing." Holman sneered. "She ran off with my money." "Your money?" Jacob slammed a pouch on the counter. "There's your silver, every cent. Now leave her be." Holman blinked, surprised. "Where'd you?" "Doesn't matter," Jacob cut in. "You come near her or those boys again, and you'll answer to me." The room went silent. Holman swallowed hard and backed down. When Jacob returned home, Anna met him at the gate, her eyes filled with tears. "Why did you do that?" He smiled gently. "Because no one stood up for me when I lost everything. You deserve better." From that day, the past no longer chased her. Spring turned to summer. The triplets grew stronger, their laughter brighter. Jacob and Anna worked side by side in the fields, and with each passing day, their bond deepened. Sometimes, at sunset, Jacob would find her on the porch, humming softly as she watched the boys play. He'd sit beside her, listening. "They remind me of you," she'd say. "How's that?" "They trust the world again. Like you taught 'em to." Jacob looked out across the golden fields. "Maybe they taught me instead." And then, one evening, when the stars shimmered above and the night was still, Jacob turned to her and said, "Anna, this house hasn't felt like a home in years. Until you came." She looked at him, her eyes shining. "And now it feels alive." He hesitated, then took her hand. "I know I can't replace what you lost. But maybe we could build something new. Together." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, softly, she whispered, "I'd like that." Months later, the church bells of the small valley rang again, this time for joy. Jacob Turner and Anna Reed were married under the white sky, surrounded by friends, neighbors, and 3 giggling boys who couldn't stop running circles around them. The farm flourished in the years that followed. The triplets grew into strong young men, and the love that filled that house became a story folks told for generations, of a widower who found life again through kindness, and a mother who found peace in the arms of hope. And if you stood outside that farmhouse on a summer evening, you could still hear laughter drifting across the fields, carried by the wind like a promise, that even in the hardest winters, love always finds a way. This is Heart of the Guardians, where every story reminds us that miracles often begin with a single act of kindness, and that sometimes, the people we least expect become the ones who save us.